Hey guys, Buck up in North Queensland, and this morning I thought I'd do one for the boaties. Ros went to work at 7:30, it's my last day off, and I looked up and thought, this is a beautiful day, too good to waste. Me and Rafa are going to put the boat in. Anyway, we're out the mouth of the river again, see if we can get out there, looks pretty good. Might have a quick fish, and then I'm going to do a bit of a safety clip for all the boaties out there. It's a nice looking catamaran coming into the Johnston River. Wonder where he's coming from, probably out the reef. Tell you what, that's a life, eh? Got the money to have one of those. What a fantastic way to live. Righto guys, take two. I came out the other day and did about 2 hours on the water of all the boat safety stuff, and the bloody GoPro, the wind and that, it was unusable, so I thought I'll come out today. We're having a quick fish in the river, and I've got Ros hanging off the end of the iPhone, so we'll see how that goes. As I said guys, this one's for the boaties today, and I'm going to go through a lot of the safety stuff that you've got to have on your boat. Some of the stuff you may already know it. If you don't, hopefully it's a good refresh for a lot of you, because it changes all the time and it's good to keep up to date with everything. So the main source of information I got from this, and sorry if you're from interstate guys, but this is all to do with Queensland boating. I'm sure it'll be very similar no matter what state of Australia you're in, but my source for this is msq.qld.gov.au, Maritime Safety Queensland.queensland.gov.au, and that's where all your rules and regulations are for boating and also for fishing. Okay, so that's where all my information comes from, and I've got the latest fishing and boating safety pamphlet downloaded off that website there guys. If you need it, you can't get them from your local marine shop anymore. You actually got to download them off the internet, and it's got all the information you need in there in relation to boating and fishing. A really good website. So Maritime Safety Queensland will be something similar if you're New South Wales or West Aussie or Victoria, South Aussie, Tassie. Have a look up your local legislation. I'm sure it'll be very similar to Queensland. So we'll go through some of the mandatory things you've got to have on your boat and some of the things that they highly recommend that you do have on your boat. Okie doke. Hey guys, just before I go on to life jackets, one thing I nearly forgot about is the registration of your boat and your trailer. Now, as you know, in every state you've got to have your motor vehicle registered. Well, in Queensland, as the wind kicks up, hopefully it won't come out too bad on the iPhone, hopeless on the GoPro. But anyway, back into the registration of your boat. If you've got an engine above 4 horsepower in Queensland, or 3 kilowatts they say, who uses kilowatts? But anyway, I've got a 40 on the back, which means my boat needs to be registered. And obviously, to tow the boat to the boat ramp, I've got to put it on a trailer. The trailer has to be registered. From memory, it's about $90 a year for the boat and about $90 for the trailer, roughly guys, here in Queensland. So in Queensland now, for vehicles and trailers, they don't actually give you a rego sticker. So you've got to keep on top of when your rego's due. We're lucky here, we got the boat and trailer as a package, so they're all due in October. With the boat, in Queensland, they still send a rego sticker out. The Department of Main Roads will send you a sticker. The sticker has to be above the water line on the port side or the left-hand side of your boat. So ours is just down the back here, so if fisheries come along or the water police, they can see that your boat's registered, and obviously you've got to have the appropriate lettering on your boat so they can check it up, okay, like a rego plate on your boat. So just remember, boats and trailers have to be registered, guys. Hey guys, if you're the skipper of your boat, you're responsible for everyone's safety on board. So it's alright, me and Ros, we come on this boat all the time, we know where everything is. So, but if I have new people come on the boat, especially if it's a bigger boat anyway, give them a safety brief before they go on. Let them know where everything is on the boat. Let them know the do's and the don't do's. I might have people from down south here dangling their legs over, and it's my responsibility to tell them it's not a good idea up in North Queensland to be dangling your legs over the side of the boat because of crocodiles. So just all stuff like that, especially letting them know where the extinguisher is, the flares, the life jackets, all that type of stuff. And remember, if you're the skipper of the boat, the drink driving laws apply on the water as they do on the road. And in Queensland, if you're the skipper of the boat, you've got to be under 0.05. If you go over 0.05 and the water police put you on the breathalyzer, you're going to do your boat licence. A fair chance you're going to do your driving licence also. So just remember that. If you're the skipper of the boat, Everyone's safety is your responsibility, so take control of the situations, eh? Okie doke, probably the most important safety item you can have on a boat is a life jacket, guys. Alright, they used to be called PFDs, personal flotation devices. They now just call them life jackets, which is what I've always called them. As from September 2016 in Queensland, they're just referred to as life jackets, not PFDs. Now, when Roz and I got this boat and trailer package down in Tully, and a lot of boats come with this, you get those, they're a PFD1 or a level 100, they're like a big square piece of foam, yellow, you slip them over your head, and there's like a big brick there and one on your back. Great flotation, those life jackets, but I tell you what, trying to get them on in an emergency, I tried fitting one on in the shed, and you wouldn't want to be sinking and trying to get one of those life jackets on, guys. They make good cushions for your bum, but and they do float well, but trying to get them on and tie them on, okay, if you sink, absolute nightmare. Which is why I went out of our own pockets. We got some new life jacket vests. Now these ones here, they don't call them PFD ones anymore, guys. They're called level 100. Now, depending on what type of waters you're operating in, you've got smooth waters like your rivers and dams, you've got partially smooth waters, might be just outside, and then you've got your beyond partially smooth waters or your open waters. Depends on what type of life jacket you've got to have. But what I highly recommend, these are called a PFD1. Now they've got your best buoyancy, these ones here, or a level 100 they're called now. I think it's the same thing, PFD1 and level 100. That's just the new terminology for them. So I went out and I got a few of these life jackets, and they're an actual vest, guys. They've got the foam and that built in. They're a lot easier to get on. They've still got the very good flotation. They're a PFD1 or a level 100, and they've got the around your neck there. Very easy to get on. You just wear them like a vest, zip them up in 2 little clips, and away you go. There's a whistle there. They come with a whistle and all that type of stuff there, so if you're floating in the water, you can whistle for if a boat goes past or whatever. So any of your marine shops will have those. So I've got 3 of them. I've got a large one for myself, a smaller one for Roz, and I've got another smaller one in case I've got a small kid on board or whatever. And just remember, guys, any kids between 12 months old and up to 12 years old must wear a life jacket at all times when they're on a boat. Bit of common sense now, okay, if the boat's under 4.8 metres. So this boat here, if I've got a 10-year-old kid on, or one of Roz's little grandkids, they've got to be wearing a life jacket at all times, and that's a bit of common sense, all right? I saw a boat go past before, 2 little toddlers on board, both with their life jackets on. That's what's required by law here in Queensland, and as I said, a bit of common sense. There's another life jacket you can get, okay, these are a level 50, and these ones here, guys, you can't use out in open waters, okay? These are more designed for partially smooth waters and smooth waters like rivers and stuff like that. So just in the river and that, a level 50 is okay. Life jacket. Now what they're designed for is jet skis, and if you're doing biscuiting or skiing and that behind the boat, you've got to wear these. And the reason that these are the ones used for biscuiting and skiing and for jet skis is they don't have that bit around the neck, because if you hit the water at a great rate of knots with that on, it can snap your neck, and that's the reason these life jackets have got to be used when you're on water skis or jet skis, sorry, and water skiing, biscuiting, stuff like that, okay? Very important, but if you've got these level 50 jackets, they're no good for open water, okay? They're only good for smooth and partially smooth. You've got to have your PFD1 or your level 100s, okay? So you must have a life jacket no matter what kind of water you operate on, whether it's in a river or out to sea. You must have a life jacket no matter what size boat, anything. That's a mandatory requirement here in Queensland, to have a life jacket on your boat. You get caught without them, 1, you're stupid, and 2, you're going to get some big fines off the water police, okay? So there you go, guys, life jackets. Rightio, let's go on with the next mandatory item that's required on your boat here in Queensland, guys, and that's flares. Alright, now, they're a pyrotechnic, they're an explosive, but when they're on your boat, they're not actually classed as an explosive, alright? They're a dangerous item, don't let your kids play with them, they're on your boat for a reason. Now, you don't need these in smooth waters in Queensland. And as I said, if you want to know when you do and don't need all this stuff I'm talking about, guys, remember that website, msq.qld.gov.au. There's a table there and it tells you exactly when you do and don't need it. But anyway, we got the flares were part of the boat package. They came with the boat. And last year I was looking at the date on the flares and they were close to expiring. So I had to get rid of those, and we went down to the local marine shop in Innisfail and we got a new bunch of flares. They have like a 3-year shelf life, guys. Now if you get caught with expired flares on your boat, once again, you're in for a fine. So just remember, keep your flares up to date. You've got to have 2 orange smoke, 2 red hand signal flares, and I think if you're operating right out to sea on a commercial boat, you probably need the parachute flares. You don't need those for the smaller boats, but certainly outside smooth waters in Queensland, you must have your 4 flares, 2 orange and 2 red, so that you can signal down or signal aircraft, signal other boats if you're in trouble, guys. So just remember that, and your local air sea rescue or your Coast Guard, volunteer Coast Guards, to dispose of your expired flares. Alright, because if you get caught with those by the police in your car or whatever, you're probably up for a court appearance for possessing pyrotechnics or explosives, a bit like firecrackers here in Queensland. So, well, if you've got mates that are into the A-League, the soccer, give them to them, they take them and let them off at the soccer games. Great for that, but they always seem to let these off at the soccer, and it's illegal, guys. I've also been told they're good for starting campfires, but you didn't hear that from me. Anyway, flares, mandatory item on your boat. Make sure you got them, make sure they're in date. Now guys, let's go on with the next mandatory piece of equipment that you must have on a boat, depending on the circumstances, of course, and that is an EPIRB, an emergency positioning indicating radio beacon. If you're wondering what EPIRB stands for, and it's one of these things here. And I tell you what, guys, these things have saved a lot of boaties' lives. Only last week, a boat upturned off Sydney there at night. They managed to dive under the boat, get the EPIRB, and they got rescued. And basically, if you're in deep shit, you set them off, they go up to a satellite, it'll go back to, I think it's Canberra, and they'll send the search party out for you, and they're accurate within a few metres. So, now, when do we need an EPIRB? At the moment, we're sitting in the river. I don't, by law in Queensland, need an EPIRB, but if I go 2 nautical miles offshore, that's when you need an EPIRB, guys. Now, we were lucky, Roz and I, when we bought the boat, the EPIRB was part of the boat and trailer package when we got it, and a lot of boat and trailer packages don't have an EPIRB. You've got to buy them extra, but it was part of it. They've got a 10-year battery life, which is fantastic. Now, when you set them off, that thing will go up to the satellites and beep for 48 hours on the EPIRBs, as opposed to a personal locating beacon. They only do that for 24. So you should never use a PLB, guys, on a boat. Always use an EPIRB. It's a requirement. Now, another important website I'm going to give you if you've got an EPIRB. It's amsa.gov.au, Australian Maritime Safety Authority. And that's the mob. You have to, when you first get an EPIRB, you get on that website. I'll put the link on the screen. You've got to register your EPIRB with AMSA. Okay, it's pretty easy to do. And then that registration's current for 2 years. It doesn't cost you anything. All right. And what they used to do is send you a sticker, and it used to have a 2-year thing, and you had to actually have the sticker here in Queensland on your EPIRB, and if you didn't have that sticker on there, then you could get a fine for that. I've just noticed on the latest boating and fishing safety thing from Maritime Queensland is you don't need to have that sticker on there anymore, but it does pay to get on there and keep the email or print the email out that you get from AMSA as proof of registration of your EPIRB. In case the water police pull you over and want to know if your EPIRB's registered. You used to have the sticker. This expires in September this year, in a couple of months. Alright, so I'm going to have to get on the internet update my details on that, who owns it and what the boat is and all that, so they know. So if you do set that off, guys, they'll come running, but what they'll do first is they'll try and ring you, they'll contact friends and family and try and find out if you're actually in trouble. If they can't contact you, that's when they send the search parties out to where this thing's actually beeping from. Learn how to use them, know how to use them, so if you're in trouble, these things can save your life. So an EPIRB, 2 nautical miles offshore, make sure you got one. Hey Rafa. Alright, let's go on with the next thing, guys. Rightio, another mandatory piece of equipment that you've got to have on your boat, guys, here in Queensland is the old V-sheet. As you can see here, a big bright orange plastic sheet with a black V on it. Okay, and this is required in partially smooth waters and open waters. Okay, you don't require it on dams and whatever, but here in Queensland it came as part of the boat package once again, so we were lucky. Make sure you've got a V-sheet on your boat, guys. You're probably wondering what that's for. If you're in trouble and you're broken down, if you're sinking, you're going to let off some flares or your EPIRB or whatever. These are for if you're not, there's no lives at danger or whatever, you've just broken down, your engine won't start, you've run out of fuel. If there's boats going past, hold your V-sheet up, and that means you need assistance and the boats will come over and give you a hand. And if you're ever going past a boat and they're waving one of these things at you, it means they need you to go over and give them a hand with something. They might need to tow back to the boat ramp or whatever. Once again, you're broken down, you're out at sea, plane flies over, you can put the V-sheet out and they'll see down and see that, alright, there's a boat out there, it needs a bit of help, it's broken down, it's run out of fuel, and they'll get the Coast Guard out. So don't forget, guys, make sure you've got a V-sheet on your boat if you're operating outside smooth waters. Rightio, we just thought we'd pull up and do a few more clips here, guys, and we'll talk about the next thing that I can't believe is not mandatory on your boat. It's a thing that they put down as recommended you have on your boat, and that's an anchor. And I honestly think you should have an anchor no matter what type of boat you got. Your engine breaks down and you're starting to drift out with the current. The first thing you do is throw your pick out so you don't drift out to sea or whatever. So you know, make sure you got the right type of anchor. Most of them have got that type there. You also, if you're going to fish on the reef, make sure you got a reef anchor, guys, so it doesn't destroy the reef and that. But as I said, a highly recommended thing to have on your boat here in Queensland. It's not mandatory, which I found surprising. I thought every boat had to have an anchor, but apparently they don't. But highly recommended you have one. And you know, there's always a current no matter where you are, especially if you're in saltwater rivers and stuff like that. You always got the tide coming in and out. If you don't have an anchor, you're just going to drift up and down the river all day. So anyway, get an anchor on your boat and we'll go on with the next thing. Alright guys, another important bit of kit that you should have on your boat, and on a boat the size of this one, a 4.2 metre, it's not required here in Queensland, is a fire extinguisher. Now if you've got a boat that's over 5 metres in length, mandatory to have a fire extinguisher on board, but for smaller tinnies and that, not mandatory to have a fire extinguisher. However, I've got one, it's just down there and I've got the label there so everyone knows it's there. Just, you know, for the sake of 20 something bucks from Super Cheap or BCF, guys, have a fire extinguisher on board. Hopefully you'll never need it, but you never know. If your engine catches on fire, you're going to wish you had one on board. So not mandatory, but highly recommended you have a fire extinguisher on board. Remember, if your boat's over 5 metres in Queensland, you've got to have one on there, guys. Always check it. Every time you do a serviceability check on all your gear, just check your fire extinguisher, make sure it's in the green, and make sure it's serviceable, eh? Hey guys, thought I'd throw a curveball in. Can anyone tell me why I carry vinegar on board my boat? If you're down south, you're probably thinking, why has he got vinegar on board? And it's not for me fish and chips either, guys. Put a comment down below if you know why I've got vinegar on board. Righto guys, here in Queensland, another item that's they recommend you have on your boat, and once again I thought it was compulsory that you had these things, but apparently it's not, is manual propulsion. Say that when you've had a few beers. Manual propulsion. I still can't say it. Oars, that's easier to say. So make sure you've got a set of oars on. Your engine breaks down, guys, you've got to get to shore. You're going to need a way to get your boat over there. Set of oars, I tell you what, I've used these twice now. Once with Roz, we got stuck on a sandbar and we had a couple of little white caps coming over the back, and my ass was doing one of those things, 50 cents, 5 cents, and we got the oars out and it got us off the sandbank. Another time, my son Phil and I going out off Deerell, we were trying to get across to the Franklin Islands. Phil was driving and we got stuck on a sandbar and it put us sideways. A few waves starting to hit us sideways. Things turned pear-shaped. First thing I reached for was the oars, and I got the nose of the boat facing into the waves, and Phil got us off the sandbank. So these have come in handy twice now. Highly recommend you have a set of oars on board, guys. Not mandatory here in Queensland, which I found surprising, but get yourself a good set of oars. And I'm going to drop him in it. A mate of mine, Matt Regan, did 20 years in the Navy. His boat was an absolute disgrace. You always hear about mechanics having the worst cars. Well, he was in the Navy, or just got out of the Navy, and his boat, unbelievable. The prop fell off his motor one day up in Cairns, and we were going home. We had to get the oars out to try and use them, and they were that brittle from being out in the sun. We did about 2 paddles and they snapped, and we had to throw the anchor down and get rescued, and it cost us a carton of Coronas. So if you're going to have your oars in the boat, guys, make sure you keep them in the shade. If your boat's stuck out in the sun, keep your oars in the shed and put them in it before you go out, eh? Righto, we'll go on with the next thing. Okay guys, another thing highly recommended that you have on your boat is charts and navigation devices. So yeah, not too bad if you're in the river like we are today, and we know we've got to head that way to get to the boat ramp. It's pretty easy. But if you're out at sea, you obviously got to have some sort of navigational devices and that, and especially when we go out the mouth of the river, like last time we went fishing, some submerged rocks and that, and you know, you've got to know if there's submerged rocks and that around, you don't want to be hitting them with your boat. So pretty important, you know, you want to know where the shallow water is, where the deep water is. So what I do, guys, and Roz has got it at the moment, she's filming on my iPhone. I've got the Navionics app on my iPhone. It was only about $12 a year, and fantastic thing to have on your smartphone, Navionics app. We also have the iPad, a Wi-Fi iPad, and I've got Navionics on that also. It's about $40 a year, I think, for the iPad version. Remember, in this thing to get put on your plotter here, your Garmin or you know, what have you, it's about $300 for the Navionics. You can get them on your smartphone or on your iPad for a lot cheaper, and it just uses the Bad Elf GPS in the iPad and tells us where we are, as opposed, and Roz can guide me and take me to exactly where all the good fishing spots and that are, and tell me where all the shallow water is. So Navionics, great program to have. Make sure you've got some manual charts. Make sure you've got a compass of some sort, whether it's on your smartphone. I've got a manual compass there. A bloke I knew in Perth, he was way off Rottnest Island one day and started heading west to go home, and if he kept going he would have ended up in South Africa, and he couldn't see land, and he thought, I'm going the wrong way. I don't know how he did it, but he did, and he was heading towards South Africa, and luckily he had enough fuel to get back into Rottnest Island. So make sure you've got a compass on your boat. Make sure you know what direction you've got to go. Just a manual chart. This came with the boat, guys, the old fish chart. Tells you how big your fish have got to be, how many you're allowed to keep. And on the other side here, and it's very important up here in North Queensland, the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park, is that we know where the green zones are for fishing, and yellow zones and your blue zones. So I've got a chart for that. Tells me where the islands are, the names of the islands and all that type of stuff, and it tells me all the green zones. And just another one that you can get from your local marine shop, guys, is get a chart that's particular to your area. This one goes from Cardwell up to just south of Cairns. Once again, tells me where all the islands and that are, and tells me the green and yellow zone. So get some sort of navigational equipment on your boat. Compass it as a bare minimum, some paper charts, and if you've got a smartphone, guys, just go into the app store and bloody get that Navionics thing. It's as cheap as chips for a year, about $12 on your smartphone, $40 on your iPad, and get the Navionics app on your smart device there, so you know where you're going. Okay guys, another thing that is mandatory if you're going to fish at night between sunset and sunrise is that you've got navigation lights on your boat. Now, once again, I got nav lights as part of the boat package with the Quintrex Renegade from Tully Marine down there. So Nav lights, your port and starboard red and green lights, professionally installed of course. And if you're going to anchor up, make sure you got the white light for when you're anchored up. It's got to be 1 metre high here in Queensland, I believe, and that is a mandatory requirement, guys. Also at night, make sure you've got signalling equipment on board, whether it's some glow sticks, I've got them in the front there, glow sticks, a torch of some sort, so if you do break down you can signal somebody. And remember, your red flares in your flare kit, they can be seen at night also as a signalling device, so make sure you got bare minimum. Great thing to take out on your boat at night, guys, the head torches. It's great for fishing and that, and keeps your two hands free. So remember, night time, nav lights, red, green and your white light, and make sure you get some torches on board, eh? Righto guys, another thing that's highly recommended and common sense to have on your boat is make sure you got drinking water and food. Now, you're going to go out North Queensland, make sure you get plenty of drinking water. So we've got the big 85 litre esky over here, we've got the big frozen water bottles in there, and we always take water, soft drinks and all that type of stuff in the esky. Plenty of drinking water, guys. Just remember, if you break down, don't take enough drinking water for an hour or so. Just think of worst case scenario. Always have some backup water. This is Rafa's here, he's got the lid down there. Always make sure if you're going to take your dog on the boat, you've got drinking water for him. And if you fish anything like me, guys, and you break down, you're going to need something to eat. Don't rely on your fishing skills. So make sure you got some emergency rations. Not too bad up the river, we could row to safety here if we needed to, but if you break down and you're out at the reef or whatever, make sure you got some emergency rations on board. And I've got another clip on YouTube, guys, actually about emergency rations in your four-wheel drive in your boat. So just something nice and easy. If you do break down and you're going to be stuck out there for a few hours, make sure you got something to eat, eh? So common sense. Other common sense stuff too, sunscreen, wide brim hats. Bloody, like this morning, we're launching the boat this morning, the midgies were getting stuck into us. Make sure you got some Bushmans or some Aerogard, some insect spray. Up here in North Queensland, especially, you know, the proper gear, long sleeve shirts, all that type of stuff. You don't want to be getting sunburned. Wide brim hats, all the stuff like that. And another one that I always carry in the boat, first aid kit. Just basic stuff, guys. Band-aids, bit of betadine, and a bandage or whatever. Slice your finger open with the fishing knife or whatever. You want to be able to put some antiseptic or something on it and get a band-aid on it, or a bandage of some sort. So, you know, some Panadol in case you get a headache. Just some real basic stuff. Make sure you got a first aid kit on board, eh? Righto, another one. Emergency communications or communications. You break down in your boat, guys, you're going to have a way that you can get help, okay? And before I forget, if you're in an area like Marillion Harbour on the weekends and you've got the Coast Guard there, there's a thing there, you put the slip in, your boat, your name, how many's on the boat or whatever, you put it in, and when you get back, you put another little slip in and it lets them know you're back home all right, okay? I figure it's like a checkout slip or whatever. It lets the Air Sea Rescue or the Coast Guard know how many boats they've got out off in their area. And I actually forgot to put the little slip in when we got back one day, and they actually rang me at home. I was sitting at home and I got a phone call, and it was the Coast Guard, the volunteer Coast Guard, and they said, we're just making sure you got home all right, mate, you didn't put your slip in. So that was my fault, but good to know that if you're stuck out there at the reef and you're not home by 5 o'clock like you said on your slip, that someone's going to ring up and put the search party out if you're not at home. And just in with that, it's not too bad here. They reckon you'll get reception, Telstra reception right out at the reef here, about 50k out off Innisfail. The guy at the marine shop the other day said he gets coverage out right out the Barrier Reef. And also I also carry the satellite phone. I haven't got the charged up at the moment, battery wise I have, but I haven't topped it up with any money, but I can make emergency calls with the satellite phone if need be. So there's some emergency backup. And just on the VHF communications, a lot of people have a VHF radio or a VHF handheld radio on their boat. Just remember, if you run a VHF marine radio, guys, you've got to have a license for that, a marine radio license, and you can do that at your volunteer Coast Guard. Usually run those courses, and you actually have to have a license to run your VHF radios. I was thinking of getting a handheld, and until, you know, like everywhere Roz and I fish, we've got coverage, and we've got the satellite phone, so I probably won't get a VHF, but if you're going right out to sea, certainly you get the weather updates from the Coast Guard and all that. Certainly a good thing to have. Something I almost forgot to tell you guys, that it is a requirement, this is a mandatory thing in Queensland, is having your life jackets marked of where the life jackets are. Now it's not too bad in a boat where they're sitting out like a tinny and your life jackets are sitting on the floor, everyone can see them, but in this boat in particular, life jackets are stored under the storage here. Now it is a requirement to have these stickers so that people on board know where the life jackets are. Okay, it's got to be a red on white background or white writing on a red background. That is a mandatory requirement to have those on there. You can see here I've also got EPIRB, flares, and I've got one for the fire extinguisher down the back. Now just for a recreational boat, the flares and the life jackets and the EPIRB stickers aren't required, but hey, it doesn't hurt to have them there, but the life jacket ones are. You've got to have that marked if they're out of sight, guys, so just remember that, because if you don't have that life jacket sticker, if your life jackets are underneath the floor, you can get some fines for that. Hey guys, all the modern boats from about 2006 onwards have to have a builder's plate, and if you can see down there, hopefully you'll see that, guys. Roz might even be able to zoom in a little bit with the iPhone. That's the manufacturer's builder's plate, and on there it tells us basically what the capacity of people on your boat is, and in this case for a 4.2 Quintrex Renegade, it's a nice wide boat. I can have a maximum of 5 people on board this boat, and that's in smooth waters. Now you wouldn't want to have 5 adults on this boat when it's out in some chop out off the thing, but a requirement in Queensland now is because that plate is not visible, it's stuck behind a chair, and Roz, if you can turn around at the back there near the thing, you must have a capacity label in Queensland, guys, which you get from your local marine shop, and you can see there capacity label has to be in view of the person operating the vehicle, and I've got a little 5 in there, and it tells me that it's a maximum of 5 people can go on this boat. So that is a requirement here in Queensland, is a capacity label. Make sure you got one of those on, or you can get some big fines. Righto guys, that's the end of the clip. I've gone through a fair bit there. Some of the mandatory stuff you've got to do here in Queensland, and some of the recommended stuff. A lot of it's common sense, because things can go pear-shaped in a boat real quick, guys. So make sure you're prepared for it, and make sure you got all the mandatory stuff there. As I said, this is all to do with Queensland, Marine Safety Queensland, or Maritime Safety Queensland is the website I was working off. There'll be a similar one if you're interstate. Okay, so things that are recommended in Queensland may be compulsory interstate, so just make sure you check your state's legislation. A lot of common sense, as I said, guys. Fuel, oil, water, you know, just think ahead. Pack your boat the night before, have a good think about things. Don't just come out that morning and take your boat out and then go, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that. Get your boat ready the night before and double and triple check everything. Make sure everything's right to go. You know, get into a routine, less chance of leaving stuff behind. But anyway, hope you got something out of this clip. There's things I've probably left out, guys, but I think I've covered the important stuff. And the main thing is you get out, you enjoy yourself, and you and your family stay safe while you're out boating, eh? Righto guys, catch you next time, for another clip from somewhere else.